The time of prophecies, the prophecies about Lebanon, and these are mostly from the Holy Bible prophets, the Old Testament. And the writer says, comment, when some people approached me in August and asked me if it was Iran's time, I answered them that the time is coming for the invasion of South Lebanon and the start of a big war in the Middle East that will involve all the countries in the region. For years, I've been quoting texts that show in detail what's coming, and today I will quote the texts about Lebanon. These texts mention the complete destruction of the port cities of Lebanon, Tyre, and Sidon, and the time against others. And these are the prophetic speech against Tyre and Sidon concerning what the prophets of the Old Testament said. Isaiah 23:1, healed ships of Carthage, for he was lost, and they are not coming from the land of the Scythians. He was a prisoner. You mourned with sobbing ships of Carthage because Tyre was destroyed. They no longer come to Tyre ships from Cyprus. The inhabitants of Tyre have been kidnapped into captivity. Isaiah 23:2, and it goes on to 23:3 and 23:4, but I'll keep on going. The same happened to the inhabitants of the islands of Phoenicia, passing through the sea. To whom have these who dwell in Tyre, that is, went by the sea? The merchants who crossed the sea became like those who sailed on great seas and who were the descendants of merchants. Like the harvest of a rich harvest were the profits of the merchants of the nations. Alas, Sidon, said the sea, and the power of the sea said, I did not give birth, I did not raise young men, I did not raise virgins. Shame on you, Sidon, and the fall of Tyre, with the fall of Tyre, said the sea. And the rocky shore, on which the waves of the sea break with force, said, I did not conceive, I did not give birth and raise young men, and did I not bring forth beautiful virgins? And behold, now there is desolation and desolation. But when it is heard in Egypt, they are filled with great grief about Tyre. And when the destruction of Tyre is heard in Egypt, they too will be afflicted with suffering, similar to that which occupied Tyre. Go to Carthage, all you dwellers in this island. Inhabitants of Tyre, go to Carthage and mourn your loss there. I think Carthage is somewhere, where is it? Egypt, Libya, things like that, North Africa. Isaiah 23:7. Was not this your blasphemy from the beginning before it was delivered? But think, was not the cause of your destruction your arrogance from ancient years before the city was still delivered? And what did they do to Tyre? Is it valid or does it not apply? Its merchants are glorious lords of the earth. Who created these plans and made the disastrous decisions against Tyre? Could it be that this city was of little strength and did not have the ability to resist? Its merchants were glorious rulers of the whole world. Isaiah 23:9, and going on through Isaiah, the Lord of hosts, it is your will to destroy all the glory of the glorious ones and dishonor all the glorious ones on earth. The Lord Almighty thought and decided to put an end to all the arrogance of its glorious men, to enable everything glorious and brilliant that existed in this country. Work your land, because no ships come from Carthage, and now after your destruction work your fields, because they no longer come ships from Carthage. But your hand has no power against the sea, which provokes kings. The Lord of hosts commanded about Canaan, if you lose its power. You no longer have the naval power that formerly produced and exhausted kings. The Lord of hosts gave an order concerning Canaan, and her power should be destroyed. And they will fall in love. Do not add to him that they insult and wrong the daughter of Sidon. And if you go to Kite, you will not rest there. And they will say then to the ruined Tyre and its abandoned inhabitants, You will no longer continue to insult and wrong the inhabitants of Sidon, and even if you go to the inhabitants of Cyprus for salvation and safety, there will be no rest for you either. As we know, Cyprus is basically across from Lebanon. I used to live in Cyprus until I was 7 years old, and my parents would go with some of their friends for a long weekend to Beirut, Lebanon, because they used to call it the Paris of the East. That's how affluent they were. The Paris of the East was Beirut, Lebanon. And they had shopping to do, and they were going to cabarets, and I don't know what they were doing. Anyway, Isaiah 23:13 and Isaiah 23:13, and in the land of Chaldeans, and it is deserted by the Assyrians. There is no rest there, because its wall has fallen. And if you go to the land of the Chaldeans, you will not find, that's Arabia, you will not find rest there either, because it has been destroyed by the Assyrians, and its fortress walls have collapsed. Be glad, ships of Carthage, for your fortress has been destroyed. You mourned, therefore, all the ships of Carthage, because of your fortress was destroyed, the pale harbor in which you sailed. Isaiah 23:15. And it shall be in that day that Tyre shall be taken for 70 years, that is, as long as the king lives, which is the average life of a man. Then Tyre will acquire its naval power and wealth, and the songs of lecherous people will now be heard in it. Take your guitar, wander here and there, Tyre, sinful city, which you had previously forgotten. Play your guitar well, sing your many hymns, so that prodigal and sinful people will remember you again. After these 7 long years, God will visit Tyre and restore it to its ancient glory, and its trade will expand to all the kingdoms of the world. Isaiah 23:18. But the profits from this trade will be wages and tribute to the Lord. They shall not gather for them only, but also for those who dwell before the Lord and serve the Lord, that they may eat and drink of the profit of this trade, that they may be satisfied with this contribution, which shall be in memorial before the Lord. And then we have from prophecies from the prophet Zechariah of the Old Testament, chapter 9, the full glory of Israel, messianic announcements, the liberation of the captives. Comment, he says, in the middle of the events in the Middle East, we are publishing another chapter of the prophet Zechariah with what will happen in the region. But here he goes to Zechariah chapter 9:1. The Lord's decision taken against the city of Sadrach and Damascus. Damascus, as we know, is in Syria, where there will be a great sacrifice of people, because the Lord watches over all people, but especially over all the tribes of Israel. Zechariah 9:2, and it goes on from there. The punishing decision of the Lord is also directed against the land of Emath and the cities of Tyre and Sidon located on its borders, because they were proud of themselves. Tyre in particular built strong walls for herself, embezzled and hoarded silver as much as the soil, and collected gold as the clay of the streets. For this reason, the Lord will take the city, he will crush its power and throw it into the sea, and the city itself will become a fire pit. Ashkelon will see this and be seized with fear. Gaza will be greatly shaken mentally, and Akron will be confounded after this fall and crash. The king of Gaza will be destroyed, and Ashkelon will no longer be inhabited. Foreigners will settle in Azoton, and thus I will not humble the pride of the Philistines. And I will take out of the mouths of the sacrificers the blood that they drank, and out of their teeth I will take out the meat of their sacrifices, and those of them who remain will belong to our God, and will form a portion of the Israelite people as a kind of hierarchy. The inhabitants of Accra will also be punished, as will the Jebusites. And Zechariah 9:8, but for my house, that is, for my people, I will install defenders so that no one can pass through them, nor return to them again, nor much more come against those with conquering dispositions to lead them captive far into exile. For now I have set my protective eyes on Jerusalem and the land of Judah. And Messianic proclamations, Zechariah 9:9. Rejoice therefore, my daughter Zion, proclaim Jerusalem, behold, your king is coming to you, righteous Redeemer and Savior, meek, sitting on a foal and a donkey and a young foal. This, as we know, was the entrance of on Palm Sunday of our Lord Jesus Christ into Jerusalem. Zechariah 9:10, he will render useless the chariots of the tribe of Ephraim, representing the kingdom of Israel, and the cavalry of Jerusalem. He will destroy the bows of war, and great peace will prevail in the part of the heathen peoples. He will rule as supreme ruler from the eastern rivers to the Mediterranean Sea, from the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to the ends of the earth. The release of the captives, Zechariah 9:11. You, Lord, answers the prophet, thanks to the covenant which you concluded with bloody sacrifices with the Israelites. You brought up the captive Jews from the pit of their captivity, where there was not even water. And you, the captives of the Jewish synagogue, will settle safe down and peaceful in your fortified city. And so instead of your short exile, people of the tribe of Judah, I will repay you many times over. For you, the tribe of Judah, I used you and stretched you as a bow, and as another quiver I filled with arrows the other Israelites. I will raise up your children, O Zion, against the children of the Greeks, and I will that is the pagans, and I will handle you as a Roman warrior. The Lord will come against these enemies, and his arrows will be like lightning. The Lord Almighty will sound the trumpet and march against these rioters with his righteous threat. But the Lord Almighty will help the Jews, and they will destroy the Hebrews, that is, and will destroy their enemies. They will smite them with the stones of their slings, and they will swallow them up as they drink wine. They will fill vessels as the vials, and altars of burnt offerings are filled with the blood of the sacrificial animals. Zechariah 9:16. The Lord their God will save the Hebrews on that day. As sheep he will protect his people, as radiant precious diadem stones which roll in his land. And whatever good exists belongs to his people, and every good thing that exists will go to him, food for the young and wine for the joy of the virgins. And this I've translated from an Orthodox Anathema blog spot. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.